Our next guest did during their All-Star break. We welcome back to the show Kayte Christensen. Will be back at work tonight. Kayte, how was your All-Star break?
It went very quickly.
It always goes too
good.
fast, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, hopefully you got some time with family and away from basketball because you've been immersed in it, and you'll be right back immersed in it tonight. So hopefully you got some quality family time.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was productive, and, we went home to my family for less than 24 hours.
Oh,
my
wow.
daughter was baptized in the church that I grew up in, and it was my anniversary, and went on a little mini overnight to Monterey in the pouring rain, but it was lovely. So yeah, it was a good break.
Well, good for you. And I think we talked about this last week. Look, literally the Kings are injured, but I think the mental break was needed. You're a former player too. I mean, especially as challenging as this season has been, how valuable do you think those days are? I mean, I'm not saying it's going to produce a bunch of wins, but just the mental reset for these guys.
Yeah, mental reset, and honestly, just like time away, right? Time away from the monotony of the daily grind, and just kind of to reset physically a little bit, and mentally to have that time away is really important. I mean, this has been a really rough season for a lot of reasons. And, you look at you break the season down into thirds is kind of how I look at it. And that middle third is the one that just really feels like it can drag on. And leading up to the All-Star break, the last 3 or 4 weeks can be really rough in a lot of ways. And then it always feels like you get to the break, you come out, and the final third of the season, I think, what is there, 26 games remaining? It usually flies by. And so, I think considering everything that's going on and the injuries and it's just one thing after another, hopefully, the remainder of the season, there can be some positive things. But I think a lot of that, Jason, is just you got to look at it and say, here's the situation. What can we get out of the last third of the season? What do we build on? What are the positive things that we can focus on and take instead of kind of living in that negativity that can, really, really get you during the course of a season?
Well, what do you think they can get there in the last 26 years, whether that's, what knowledge Doug can get, Scott Perry can get, individual players can get? What can they get, you think, out of these final 26?
Well, I think a lot of it is going to be just like developing youth and having an opportunity for, the young guys to get some legit playing time. Devin Carter is one of those guys who, second year in the league, and it's crazy. I said it in our last game, kind of before the break. We were in Utah, and I think Max and Neek have both played around 55, 56 games, around that. And Devin Carter has played 54 games in his entire NBA career. So the opportunity for him to kind of be out there and showcase himself, and for the front office and the coaching staff to legitimately be able to evaluate him in some, meaningful minutes going against, opponents that, it's going to be the first string guys. Like, he got his first start against Utah. That's something you can look at. Plowden, Daquan Plowden, Neat Clifford, obviously Max Reynaud. I saw yesterday, and it's upsetting that Dylan Cardwell is going to be out for a while. Sprained his ankle at practice, and that's unfortunate because, man, I was really enjoying watching him play and develop. And there was a drastic turn for me with him when it came to, he came in, was an energy guy, a rim protector, a rebounder. But then we started to see him actually think about scoring on the offensive end. And I was excited to kind of see how that progressed for him through the rest of the season. But yeah, those are the things you really have to focus on. And I don't know, for players, for fans, media, I think everybody kind of looks at it differently. I don't know, I'm not in the mind of the fans and how they feel or what they think about kind of how the season has gone or what they expect for the remainder of the season. But for me, I think that's the thing that, I've just got to kind of focus on and really analyze and look into is what am I seeing from the young guys and what are reasonable expectations for them moving forward.
Tonight, we also get the return of Keegan. It's been an incomplete year for him, just starts and stops and injuries and unfortunate things. Nothing major, but it's kept him out a lot of action. And, I want to see what he can do. We already know what he's capable of, but just kind of with Keegan with some of the younger guys now will be an interesting look over the last 26 games.
It will. And I think, the way I look at kind of the makeup of this team and what I'm getting from, front office and coaching staff and that type of thing is that the feeling I get is like, this is Keegan's team for the most part. He's one of the older guys on the team. He's only in his third season, but he's one of the older guys on this team that it's like, okay, he is a solid, legitimate, focused piece of the future of this franchise. And so, what is that going to look like? Obviously, Zach LaVine out for the season, with his surgery on his finger. We've seen Russell Westbrook and DeMar DeRozan, their minutes have dropped around the 20s here over the last week or so. I expect Keegan to be put in situations to kind of see how he can lead and run a team and be a focal point of what they're doing really on both ends of the floor.
And, what they're asking of, let's say, Russell Westbrook and DeMar DeRozan to be the professionals that they've been, be mentors, be leaders. Is that also, like, look, they've been around and done it and have Hall of Fame careers, but you're right. I think this is going to be Keegan's team, at least going forward for the foreseeable future. Is that a role they kind of want to see from him now? And it doesn't mean he has to have the best stats, but it's like, look, if there's huddles, if there's timeouts, if there's struggles, what is Keegan doing about that to kind of lead out of some of that? You expect more of that from him in the rest of this way?
It's an interesting question because Keegan is as we all know, a very quiet individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't appear to me to have at this point in his NBA career, and I'm not sure kind of the inner workings of, his college career, what it was like, but I think that's the hardest step for players to make is to become a vocal leader. A lot of players are just not comfortable in that role and are better at leading by example, and that's kind of where they, feel more comfortable leading. But I think for someone like Keegan, the next step really is for him to be able to step up and lead from a vocal perspective. And this is a tough season to kind of step into that role as well, because it is rough. I mean, wins are few and far between, and they've struggled with injuries and so many things. Like the adversities that they have faced this season are just, monumental. And so I'll keep an eye on and really, kind of look at what I'm seeing from Keegan just from a vocal perspective, just to get a gauge on, like, is that something that he will be comfortable doing, down the road.
As far as the year goes, the wear and tear of the season or the mental part of this, I'm going to take you back to your playing days as a professional, whether it was overseas or in the WNBA. What were the challenges of the worst season you had as a team, like a win-loss season? What did that do to you?
I would say that the toughest season for me mentally was, I believe Diana Taurasi was drafted in 2004, if memory serves. And in 2003, we really were a team that it was difficult to get wins. We were competitive in the sense that, we were in games and we weren't, just being blown out on a regular basis or anything like that. And I think it was mentally exhausting because, we were so close, but we just couldn't really get over the hump. And it was a difficult coaching situation as well. John Shoemate was our coach that year. And I mean, the things that, you're faced with during a season, there's just too many to kind of list, right? And it changes, it morphs throughout the season. But I do remember that season as being like, wow, this is brutal. This is really, really tough. And at the end of the day, we clearly were were missing one piece to that puzzle that could really kind of send you in the opposite direction, that changes your trajectory. And so that season was mentally exhausting in a big way. But, when you look at kind of what these guys are going through, a WNBA season is nothing like an NBA season. It's truly like an 82-game season is tough. Now, I will say, WNBA players, unlike NBA players, they play year-round. I mean, you go overseas and you play, and there's no break. You come right back. So the physical wear and tear can become quite a challenge for WNBA players. But, when you look at the Kings right now, I've been here. My first season, Jason, was 2006. Like, the worst season in my time here was the 2008-2009 season. And that was 17 wins, I believe. And it's crazy. I was talking about this with Mark Jones on our last trip. I don't remember that season.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the times when you're in it, it feels brutal. It feels challenging. It's so rough. It's such a grind. But I don't remember that 2008-2009 season, like, at all. I believe it was the following year where they got Tyreek Evans with the number 5 pick. But also, if you look back, kind of, I think the other season that was really challenging was 1998, 1999 from a win-loss perspective. And I'm like, hold on a second. Like, by 2002, this team was rolling in the, deep into the playoffs. So it also is like, you can look at the past and history and be like, okay, things can really shift and turn around. Now, obviously, there was a big piece of the puzzle that came that changed that, and that was Chris Webber, obviously. So I think that, a lot of people right now are just kind of hopeful about what will the summer look like for the Kings, not even just in terms of, free agency or those type of things, but this draft has everybody talking about it. So I'm trying to kind of focus a little bit on that and just remember, okay, I don't remember that 08-09 season. Like, this too shall pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and by the way, your memory is really good. I had the chance to look it up while you were talking about your 03. You were spot on. You guys did have the worst record as the Mercury, 8-26. And you got Diana in the draft, and next year you're 500 and you guys start your climb. And that's kind of to your point about those Kings rough years, is it doesn't always happen overnight, and I wouldn't expect it to be that way this year, but you got to implement the pieces that you want to carry over from whatever the back end of this season is and get to work in the summer, have a good summer, and really start the climb. There's a lot of work ahead.
Well, I will say this too, going through that 2003 season in Phoenix, going through that just brutal, can't win games, worst, win-loss record in the league, all of those things, there is an element to that where that builds a bit of character because of the adversity that you're dealing with. You don't want to have that feeling again, because it implants in you. It's like a traumatic experience, if you will. And so I think that these types of seasons really have the ability, if used correctly, to be a massive motivator. And I think that, this is going to be a really good, kind of test. We're going to look back at this season 3 years from now and see if that motivation was kind of the thing that catapulted them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, because I can see the logic behind that. This isn't about DeMar, and no offense to them or to Russell Westbrook, who won't be here long term, but it's what does Maxime Reynaud take from this? What does Nick Clifford take from this? And I brought this up earlier, Kayte. I love the fact that Nick Clifford had a 30-point game here recently, but I also love that he went 1 for 15, because that's the sport. You can have a night where you shine and you go, wow, that was a day that I'm going to never forget. And then you go, man, I went 1 for 15. I felt like I did a lot of the same things. I mean, how much value is he getting in the good day and in the bad day?
Listen, it's the same in life, right? It's peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And you don't appreciate or even understand how to sustain the peak if you haven't lived in the valley, right? It's perspective. And, those games where you struggle and where, those kind of burn in your memory to a certain degree, like it's something that is a really great tool if used the right way to look at what was going on. How did I, even though I wasn't shooting the ball well, for example, like how else can I impact a game? Like, I think we focus so much, and I get it because, basketball and most professional sports leagues, it's stat driven analytics, right? And you look at kind of sports betting and everything now, like everything is driven on scoring. And to me, scoring is great, but every player is going to have a game or a stretch where you struggle to put the ball through the net. But you can impact a game in massive ways. I mean, I think Dennis Rodman is maybe the best example of all time, right? Didn't have to score the ball, but man, the impact that he had on the game was just monumental, right? And so you have to find ways to be productive, to impact the game, and to change the course of a game, even when your shot is not falling. So those games are really, really important, I think, for young players to kind of experience the emotion and the thought process that you need to train your brain to go through during games like that.
Talking with Kayte Christensen, TV analyst for your Sacramento Kings. Kayte, I was thinking about this earlier today. Part of me maybe wanted to forget it, but I did because of the mental reset this break. I mean, this is 14 losses in a row. That's brutal, but if they weren't able to win tonight, yes, factually it's 15, but it almost feels like one because of the break. They have when you lose 14 in a row and you're doing it every night or every other night, it all adds up. But just this 8 days off without basketball, it does really feel like a mental reset for me, and I hope it does for the team, even though that 14-game losing streak is still staring at them in the standings.
Yeah, it's mental and it's physical, right? The physical component of it, I think, is just as important. You look at the young guys are the guys that are going to get the majority of the playing time going forward, and Max and Neek, truly, they went straight from a college season into the draft process, into summer league, and then straight into the season, right? And so they've already played more games this year than they played their final year of college. Like, that is a really legit thing that rookies have to go through and experience. And I think just having that 1 week off for everybody involved really is so important for your body to recover, just as much as it is like mentally to recover. And this is just kind of how it is. You have the game tonight and then you leave and you're gone for a little over a week. I mean, let's see if I can remember where we're going. I think San Antonio, Memphis, Houston, Dallas back to back, then to LA before coming home. Like, Kings won't be home until beginning of March. And so it's like, you've had this mental break, you've had this physical break, you're going to play a game at home, but then you're like shot straight back out onto the road for an extended period of time. And so these are just the challenges that you go through during the season. But for me, I think we always talk about the mental break, but we talk about that in rough seasons, right?
Yeah.
The physical break, no matter if you're having a great season or a rough season, is really, really critical, just because of the wear and tear on these guys' bodies, and especially given the fact that a lot of the guys that are getting big minutes and have been getting big minutes and will get big minutes going forward are these young guys that they're experiencing this NBA schedule for the very first time.
In our last thought here, Kayte, as you got Kings and Magic tonight, I just wanted to ask, I don't expect you to have an answer here, but as a former WNBA player, I do want to ask you about the league, the WNBA. It's as good as it's ever been, maybe the best it's ever been. They're thriving. Players, and I'm all in on the player side. They've been underpaid for years. You know that. They're trying to stand their ground. The league is trying to stand their ground. It feels they got to be really careful here because I don't want them to lose any of this great momentum. Just love your opinion on kind of where their talks are or what you see. I mean, I don't know. I just love your overall take on where the WNBA is in these negotiations to try to keep this sport thriving.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. I wish I had like a good answer for you. I'll be honest. I know they're in negotiations with the league, the CBA. I don't follow it super closely. if I'm being honest, just being a mom and a wife and managing an NBA season, like I'm pretty, tapped out most of the time. And, it was, I don't know, 2 or so months ago, I want to say that, comments that the WNBA commissioner had made to some players had kind of come to light. And that was incredibly, incredibly disappointing for me to hear.
Yeah.
I had some great commissioners while I was in the WNBA and people that I really, really felt supported players and the idea of a professional, women's sports league, right? And, the league started in 97, and I came into the league in 2002. So I was very much in the infancy of the league, and we didn't have a lot of bargaining tools. We didn't have a lot of the things that these players have now kind of in our back pocket. And I think they're doing a great job in the sense of kind of standing up for some things that I think that they deserve. But I also think it's difficult, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a business, and there are still WNBA teams that are being financed by, NBA franchises and by the league and that type of thing. And so players like Caitlin Clark, I think, have drastically shifted momentum for the league. And you've obviously got, other leagues that have now been created, and you can see that there is a desire for consumption for the women's basketball product. So I can't speak on like the negotiations. I know they're ongoing and that type of thing. I'm pretty far removed from that.
Yeah.
But I do remember going through CBA negotiations when I was in the league. And one thing that I noticed about it was a lot of the players at that time were not actively involved in those discussions. Like we would meet and we would have meetings as a team when we were on the road or in your home city. And it was things like, you guys really, truly need to pay attention to what's going on because this impacts the league now, but it impacts the league going forward. And I believe at the time, like Lisa Leslie, Tina Thompson, like some of those big names were, the players that were representing us in those negotiations. And one of the big things that they were fighting for was raising the veteran minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that is they actually damaged the league and the overall product by fighting for that because, yes, they raised the veteran minimum, but they did not raise the salary cap. So what ended up happening is a lot of, vets that had been in the league and were role players and important players on their teams ended up not having jobs because the younger players were more affordable. And so all of these things, and I'm not like an economics person, and I'm certainly not on the business side of basketball. That is not my strong point. I don't even delve into it because it makes my brain hurt, right? But you need to have smart people. You need to think about the overall picture. And I think most importantly, what I want to see, yes, I want to see the league succeed, but I want to see someone in a position of leadership that is leading the league, that their comments and their demeanor reflect what these women deserve.
I think that's well said. I'm glad I asked. Great answer there, Kayte, on that, and we'll see where that goes. I wish them nothing but the best because the product is amazing right now. We'll see what we got tonight with the Kings and the Magic. Kayte, I know you'll be on the call, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week from the road.
All righty. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you. That's Kayte Christensen joining us as she does each and every week, sharing her insight on the Kings, and in this case, giving us some intel and input from the WNBA. All right, still to come. Crosstalk with Matt and Kayla. That's the last portion of the show, celebrity birthdays. But up next, what's on